All right, welcome to the Citizen Council live stream. I am Chris Castleman here with Brandy
And
Martindale.
Brandy
We'll get
Martindale.
right to it. We're going to talk about the Bandon construction tax. I think, Brandy, you met with the superintendent or you had a conversation with her. Do you
I
want to just
did,
jump right
yes.
into that?
I believe her name is Shauna, and I spoke with her right after the next day, and it was really interesting. She gave me a lot more insight, and so I kind of need to backpedal a little bit because when you told me what was going on, I'm like, oh my God, that's so stupid. They're going to stifle development. And given the facts that we were presented with, yeah, it did sound stupid. Digging a little more into it, this Bandon tax, it was something set up by the state of Oregon that a municipality can, excuse me, a school district can levy at their choosing. And so here's why they chose to do what they did. Bandon has a large population of people who do not live in Oregon. Oregon is not their primary residence. They have second, third, fourth homes up there on the cliff tops, on the beach and whatnot, where wealthy people buy their vacation homes. So what ends up happening is that all of these people who own homes in those areas are voting down the levies that Bandon needs to make safety improvements to their buildings. So if anybody who's grown up on the West Coast over here in Coos County, you know that all of our infrastructure was built primarily in like the 50s, 60s, and it's dilapidating. A lot of it has asbestos. There are some lead-based paint type issues. And so Bandon has some issues with their buildings that need to be repaired. They have not been able to get a levy to pass, and they simply don't have the money they need to make the improvements to the buildings that they need to make the buildings safe for the kids. So the superintendent explained to me that they passed this levy kind of as a last resort and she doesn't even know how much money they're going to get. They're going to find out. Actually, she's going to get her first check at the end of this month, so any day, and then they'll get another check. So they're going to start getting, I believe, monthly checks. So she's going to call me back and let me know how much money they actually made, and I think they're going to get a report that breaks down exactly where the money is coming from. Now, there's some caveats, really interesting caveats about this bill or about this, I don't know if it's a levy or a bond, but the money they're getting from this, they cannot use it on salary. So she said that, and she's a great woman. If anyone has any questions, I'm looking her up right now.
I believe the tax is only supposed to be used on capital improvement projects.
It is. So the way she worded it, because I want to give her first and last name.
It's a $1.63 per square foot this year, and there's a schedule, so it keeps going up and up and up every year. But currently, it's $1.63 per square foot if you're building a new building, and it's a one-time thing. It's added to your permit fees, and it would like for example, a 2,000 square foot house, it would just be over $3,000. Not just that's a lot of money.
Yes,
but
yes, it is a lot of money. It cannot be levied against affordable housing projects, municipal buildings, fire department buildings, medical buildings. So there are a whole bunch of caveats that this tax doesn't apply to. Her name is Shauna Shermer. And speaking to her was so refreshing because she was just honest. She basically said, this is money that the unions can't dig their claws into. So it's going directly to the students. And as soon as she said that, and she's like, I'm one of the only superintendents that you're ever going to hear say that. And I was like, we could be friends. We might be friends now. Because I understand the struggle with trying to get district money without having the unions try to claw at it. And so this is one way she was able to do that. She also made a point to let me know that this money could, like you said, only be used on infrastructure development. So and she said she really liked the way the money had a narrow usage. So it can't be used for frivolous stuff. It's literally just for infrastructure improvement. Um, Another thing she brought up is that because of the way it's structured and the building types that are exempt from the tax, it's prime her theory, and she's going to find out here at the end of the month when she gets this report, is that this tax will primarily apply to the people who are building luxury second and third homes on the coast there in Bandon. And so because of all the exemptions, she's taxing the demographic of people who are really not contributing, people who don't have kids in our school, people who don't live here and contribute to our economy on a regular basis. And so people who don't pay income taxes to our state. And so hearing both those things and hearing her talk about it so candidly and just being willing to be like, yeah, she kind of didn't care if she upset some people by just kind of saying, like, I'm trying to get this money directly for our buildings, and I don't really care if I have to get around other people to do it. And so there was quite a bit more to it, and I was happy to get filled in by her.
So I've got a couple problems with this.
Okay.
A couple. The first big problem is Shauna's not an elected official. She's a superintendent. She is hired by elected officials, by the school board. There's a 7-member school board that is elected. 4 of those positions are up for election in May. And what happened with this tax, no one knew about it. It was the state legislature allowed this tax to be levied. They allowed school districts to have the ability to levy this tax a long time ago, like I think like 15 years ago. So Bandon decided this past summer to do this, to levy this tax, and they gave it about 50 seconds worth of time in one of their council meetings, and they didn't let anybody know. And I've even spoken to some counselors or board members who really had no idea what this was, even when they voted on it. So that's like a big issue for me. The other issue is just simply no more taxes. Like, we shouldn't be adding taxes. Like, it's like we're taxed to death. Like, for instance, like you're saying the people of Bandon don't want to vote on levies. So if that's the case, and I believe that, like, that's countywide, statewide, people don't want any more taxes. They don't want more tax levies and things like that. So the solution is not to like sneak around them and add one. It's going to make the problem even worse. If their taxes keep going up, even though they're not voting on them, it's definitely going to get worse. The other issue I have is, like, just because someone from out of state moves here and even has a vacation home, like, if you work really hard and you earn a lot of money and you're rich, you have the right to be rich. Like, that's America. And you shouldn't be treated differently just because you are successful in life. You shouldn't just have an extra tax because you're rich. And like, the people that are coming here, if this is the demographic that they're going after, that they're rich elderly people, they are incredibly like advantageous to our economy because they're not relying on all these services. They're not committing crimes, so they're not costing our criminal justice system.
True.
They're not using our school system. They don't have kids that are using our school system. So like, they're not adding a cost. And if they come here and build a nice new home, it's going to be assessed at a much higher value than somebody who has a home that's been grandfathered into the system, and they're going to pay yearly property taxes. And the majority of your property taxes go towards schools. So it's like, for me, I just don't see it. I mean, it's a solid no for me on this one. And I'm really pissed at the Bandon School Board for sneaking it on people and not allowing people to comment on it or even know about it. I have spoken with some people that they're maybe going to reverse it. I doubt it. I'll believe it when I see it, but I know that was a lot. So I'll let you go, but those were my main, like, hell no's to it.
I would say, so what was the last point you just made? I'll go back to the people. So
But like
people,
their target demographic for this tax is somebody who is not, they're going to pay taxes every year. Like if they come in and build a
sure.
brand new home, that tax, they're going to have property taxes every year. So they are getting income. You would want to encourage that income, not discourage it by adding a prohibitive cost. And if they're rich, they're probably going to pay it anyway. But it's a nuisance. And if word gets out that it's annoying to build in Bandon because they're just adding taxes left and right, then word will get out and they'll stop coming.
So I think the idea behind that was these houses sit empty for the majority of the year. And so they're really not doing much for the community. That could be living in that house, could be another doctor, another like attorney, another welder or electrician or builder, or it could be someone who is actually contributing to this community. That I do agree with. I don't like the buildings that are sitting empty, the homes that are sitting empty. And then you made another point at the end that I had a thought on, and I kind of lost it.
I'm gonna buy you a notepad so you can take.
I know.
You gotta.
Well,
I hated taking notes
right
at school. My teachers would yell, "Oh, you got to take notes." I don't need notes. I'll remember everything. And then I turned like 25 and I started forgetting stuff. Yeah. You're almost
my
25,
concern
right?
with this, almost. I'll be 25 next year.
Okay.
The all of this, even if the tax is justified, listen, these people need to get money to fix their buildings, however they do it. They did it sneaky for a reason. I think that might have been the other thing I had to comment on. They did it sneaky for a reason. And here's why. They did not necessarily want to advocate that other municipalities and other districts do this. It was what they needed to do to get the money they needed to do the infrastructure improvements to make the buildings safe for the kids. It was like
that's a bullshit reason to me. I mean, if you want to believe that, you can, but to me, that's like, come on, Shauna,
But they didn't want to encourage it. They didn't want, and I do get that, because I don't necessarily advocate for everything I do in my life that works for me. Like some of it is, maybe questionable, but it works for me. But I wouldn't necessarily go out and advocate my lifestyle. And so I get the idea of like, okay, this is going to work for us, but we don't want to push it like it's the best idea and everyone should do it. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is that Shauna did talk about, let's see, how do I want to put this? I think I'll save it. I'll save it until I can word it a little bit better, because I want to make sure I get it right. I did want to talk about the constitutionality about it, though.
Hold on a second. We got a comment from someone. They thought it was a discussion about homeless problem and affordable housing. We will get to that. We're talking about abandoned construction tax first. So I appreciate you watching, Kat. And we will probably in maybe 5-10 minutes get to that. So
yeah, then we're going to touch on kind of multiple issues.
Yeah, I'll think in the future I'm going to post like an agenda or something so people can kind of know general time frame if they don't want to tune in like right away, because not everybody cares about a construction tax in Bandon. I actually certainly don't. I wish we weren't talking about this, because I wish that the school board in Bandon was more in tune with their citizens, and they would have put it out there. And I think their citizens would have told them, we don't actually want this, or they would have said they do want it. And then I would have no gripe, because you know what? You guys did that to yourself. So
I remembered what I wanted to say. She did mention, I brought up some of the language that, like, the guy said something like, so we can just grab the money and run. And I'm like, these are our tax dollars that you're talking about. And that's a little brazen, buddy. She immediately took accountability for it. She said, I'm paraphrasing, but she said something to the effect of, You're absolutely right. That was not the right way to say that, and we do need to do better. She did not try to make excuses. She didn't try to explain it away. She straight up 100% took accountability and said, we need to do better. We need to communicate better. We need to be more thoughtful with our language. And I appreciated that because it's something that you don't get from a leader very often.
Yeah, I mean, it's something controversial. It's a new tax, and it's a lot of money for some people. So it's super simple to just put a post out there on Facebook, on social media, or anywhere, a press release, and said, hey, we're talking about this at the meeting, because it's like they didn't even in the agenda for that meeting back in June, it was just listed as like amendment to resolution 18, and like, how would you know that that's a new tax? So one thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to post, like we did last week, I'm going to post in the comments a link to join the show if anybody wants to join in on the conversation. Not on this topic, but maybe the next one for homeless stuff.
Sure.
And I'm not going to be able to bring everybody online. You'll sit in like a staging area, and I'll just have to be selective because we don't have all the time in the world. But I just want to put it out there for people on YouTube and Facebook. I don't think it'll work for Rumble. And then I wanted to play the school board meeting. It's only 50 seconds. Share my screen just so people can understand. So it said amendment to resolution 18. And then this was essentially the gist of it. They didn't ask for public comment or any sort of engagement with the public on this. Can you hear that?
It is recommended that the school board approve and impose the construction excise tax rates of $1.63 per square foot for residential construction and 82 cents per square foot for non-residential construction, beginning in 2024-25 fiscal year.
I will second that. Happy, thank you for being all the way. Yeah. So I didn't know we had taxi.
So this was passed in 2007.
Cool.
We weren't utilizing it. So.
Since 2007. Yes.
Any further discussion on that?
We can't go backwards, correct?
Okay.
Correct.
Time
We
is
can't
up.
retro. All in favor?
So it was that quick. And I don't know if that was easy to hear for people online, but essentially the one guy said, I didn't know we had taxing authority. Cool. And then another guy said, could we retroactively collect this? Which is like a very weird concept. And then all in favor say aye, and then it's over just like that. That's not transparency.
Afterwards. And just the conversation about how they're spending tax dollars and how they're collecting tax dollars is a little bit insensitive, right? Like, this is people's money, and you shouldn't be so kind of haphazard about it and just kind of, oh, we could just take the money and run. Oh, can we retroactivate it? Like,
it's entitlement. They feel entitled to the taxpayers' money, and that's bullshit. That's not how it should be.
So ultimately, this issue comes down to, I think, the constitutionality of it, because whether or not we think it was needed, we think it's helpful, we think it's wrong, it may be unconstitutional. And so if you look at Senate Bill 1036 from the 7th Oregon Legislative Assembly in 2007, that's where they passed the law to do this. And now, mind you, the Bandon School District voted to impose this tax before the Supreme Court ruling. Now, fast forward to October term 2023, that was the term, and they actually came to meet. It was argued on January 9th of 2024, excuse me. It was decided April 12th of 2024, and this is you can look up the syllabus, and it is Sheets, SHEETZ versus County of El Dorado. The implications for this ruling are vast, and not well understood, and not very many people in our government. I haven't met anyone that even knew about it. But basically what this says is that a taxation on a property cannot be greater than a taxation on building costs, excuse me, on building costs cannot be greater than the actual public cost of the project. So if you have to put in, if the city has to redo their sidewalk to accommodate my building, and that costs $35,000 or whatever, they levy a portion of that tax onto me as a builder. So what our county is doing, and it's a different municipality by municipality, so Bandon, Coos Bay, Coquille, we all may do it differently. What they're doing is they're assessing it on the dollar cost of the project. That is unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court clarifies that whether the legislative process or a bureaucratic process is unconstitutional. And so this tax on per square footage may actually violate this Supreme Court ruling. And if it does, this tax is unconstitutional, and they're going to have to pay it back if they get sued. So we need to, I'm trying to find out, this is beyond the scope of my personal attorney, beyond the scope of my contract with them. And so I'm trying to do some digging and find a constitutional attorney that can take a look at this, because apparently our city government is not super concerned about it, considering that the city of El Dorado got hit with a $23,000 bill that they now have to pay back. I think we should, for one guy, for one dude. So once the lawsuits start coming, this is going to be a domino effect, and this could be financially very difficult. And
I mean, I just don't even understand how property tax in general is constitutional, but I'm not a lawyer, but I just, being taxed on something that you worked hard to obtain with money that was already taxed is just nuts. And even if you have a mortgage, you're going to eventually pay it off with taxed funds. So, you're being taxed on it. I mean, do we get taxed on on the shoes we wear? No. Or on the computer I'm using? I mean, every year.
Private property is protected by the Fifth Amendment takings clause, and that makes it unconstitutional to take private property from a person without adequate compensation, which is what's happening here. And so we may find,
but they do it.
It might not keep happening. All it's going to take is for someone to get mad and file a lawsuit over this tax. Now, for property tax, we may find that is deemed unconstitutional as well. It's going to take someone appealing up to the Supreme Court to get that ruling, though. In the meantime, we have this ruling for permitting for building costs. If it's found
Cat's still with us.
Yeah.
Cat hung in there for our tax discussion, and she taxes on taxes on taxes on taxes. That's America. Right.
So stay tuned. I'm digging into this to see if this is unconstitutional, because if it is, we need to find out sooner rather than later, so that this money doesn't have to get paid back by the taxpayers, right? Because that would be the worst case scenario. So that's all I got on that, and we'll have some updates as soon as I can.
Yeah, I'm working with some school board members to hopefully reverse this. I just don't know if they actually will. I feel like they're just giving me lip service. But I'm pretty mad about it, and I know a lot of people in Bandon that are pretty mad about it. So maybe if we can convey that in a constructive way, they'll reverse this and get rid of it. But
maybe I want to find out how it plays. I want to find out which demographic, because if it really does tax the people who are coming here and buying their second and third homes, I don't care. Tax them.
Yeah.
Do it.
Well,
that's my personal opinion, and I know that people will disagree with that.
I know of a county commissioner that was taxed on this because he just built a home in Bandon, and he's within that window, and he got taxed. So, I mean, so we are taxing people who are living here and contributing to society, and that's weird. But even then, it shouldn't matter. If I want to make a lot of money and buy a home in Arizona, I shouldn't be taxed special just because I'm out of state. I mean, I'm allowed to own a vacation home. But we got to move on because we're gonna have a mutiny if we don't.
We don't care. Okay, guys.
I'm gonna play the video of. So we went to a couple places in Coos Bay last week. Me and a couple friends of mine, and we did some interviews with some people staying in the homeless encampment. And the goal of this was just to show their side of it, I guess, just to have a conversation, not be biased or anything. I mean, I just talk to people and try and ask them questions to understand the situation. You know, I asked the one guy, like, you know, what made you live out here in the woods, you know, and just let people answer it. So it's really short. It's only a couple minutes, but that's kind of my intent, is just kind of get conversation going around it, because this was one of the largest encampments that I've ever seen around here. So let's get this.
We're not camping right here though, right?
No, I was actually just in here
Okay.
cleaning up.
I noticed the tents are gone, so that's good.
Have you been camping back here?
Not in a long time.
Okay. Have you camped back here before?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Are you from Coos Bay, or are you kind of just running through the area?
I was born in Roseburg, but I mean, I've lived here since 2011, but I've only been homeless for the last like 3 years.
The cops came in here and ran people off?
Yeah.
Okay. Do they do that often, or
Yeah. They
like?
pretty much run us out of everywhere we go.
Okay. Is there anywhere in town, or is it nowhere safe in town and they kind of kick you out into the county?
Ackerman Street, you can camp there from like 7 or 8 at night until 6 o'clock in the morning. But if you're not up by 7, they come through screaming and yelling.
Have you ever been there like later at night? That kind of crowd?
Sometimes.
They're like pretty rowdy. Always
Yeah.
cops getting called and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you throw a bunch of us out here like this, and we tend to get rowdy.
what made you decide to live back here like this?
I can't work. I messed up my hand pretty bad.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just trying to live peacefully and just stay out of trouble, you know.
Is there any services in town that help you out?
Yeah, there's services, as much as possible, but I mean, I'm not. I can rely on myself.
Pretty minimalistically for the most part for my 6 months out of the year.
Right.
You know, I'm kind of a dude. I'm a woman, but I'm a dude. I can cook my own food and I can pretty much take care of myself.
Miss. Environmental disaster.
Fuck, you get a shopping cart up this far.
So I'll let this play out. The remainder of this video is we can chat while this is going on, but mostly an unedited version of us starting at the top of the canyon and walking all the way down to the bottom at Blossom Gulch. And I mean, it's, I don't know, quarter mile, maybe half mile long trail of just utter chaos. It's
This
wild.
has to have been going on for a while.
Oh yeah. Yep. I mean, that doesn't happen overnight. The amount of stuff in there. So if somebody was asking, where is this? The one right now that's being shown is Blossom Gulch. I believe at the moment on the camera, it's private property. And then the other half of that camp is on school board property, the backside of Blossom Gulch Elementary School Board property. And then the other camp we toured was in Empire behind the old Spotlight Bar, Gussie's, right there across from, I think it's 7-Eleven. You can go back in the woods there, and it's private property and city right of way. and it's insane. The other, the one in Empire, we couldn't actually film a lot of the stuff because people were living in it. And I'm not going to, you know, walk up and put a camera inside someone's tent while they're living in it. We tried to be as respectful as we could, even though they are obviously not being respectful of our community. So I don't even know what to say. This like pisses me off.
It's shocking. It's shocking that we let people live like this. Like, and there's a lot of people who say, well, they just need help. No, there's help available. The problem is it needs to be required. Like if you're addicted to drugs, if you have behavioral problems where you can't support yourself and you're living off of government assistance, it needs to be required that you go through a program. And there is no requirement. We're just letting mentally ill people fall into drug addiction. They get abused, and then they have even more mental health problems because of their abuse and drug addiction. And it's a horrible cycle. And really what it comes down to is that we as a society have to say, no, you're not allowed to do this. We have to set boundaries. You're not allowed to be a drug addict leeching off of the system, because all of these people are getting government benefits and are contributing nothing. And do they need help? Yes, of course they need help, but they're not going to choose it because they're high or they're mentally ill and they're off in their own world. We have to mandate it. I have been throwing around the idea of trying to get service centers, whether it be the police department, the sheriff's department, or ADAPT or Coos Health and Wellness, to file for commitment orders on some of these people who need to be in facilities where they can get care.
It's nuts. But the other thing though, it's not all just mental illness or drug addiction. These people are straight up criminals. Not every single one, but you know, part of this, and we're going to probably do more interviews like this in different cities but mainly in Coos Bay. But it's like the three people we interviewed, like this lady right here is currently, I mean, I don't know if she's in jail at this moment, but she was in jail last night. She was on the jail roster for criminal trespass and theft. And she's rotating in and out for burglary and theft, identity theft. She stole someone's checks or allegedly. All this is allegedly, so I don't get sued, even though, you know, these are facts. The other person at the end, or not the end, the lady at the end, she was really hard to hear, but I'm not familiar with her or who she is. But the guy we interviewed right after this lady just got picked up got caught at Subway trying to pass counterfeit $100 bills. That was today. And then he has, you know, a long rap sheet for theft and burglary. He burglarized South Coast Saul. I believe that was last year. He like broke in, you know, and like when you're talking with these people, they give you the impression that they're, you know, oh, we're just, you know, like he showed his hand there. Like, I'm just disabled. It's like, you're so disabled that you were able to break into a business at night. Like he had to break open a fence and steal, like he had to carry out 2 chainsaws. I wish I had the video today. I tried to find it, but I don't have it available to me at the moment. But it's like,
I think Chris, that's
he's
really
so disabled, but he can be a burglar.
Yes.
It pisses me off, really.
So I grew up around drug addicts. Like I did not have a very great childhood. I grew up around meth abusers, and luckily I had a sober mother. So thankful for that one person. But I was surrounded by meth addiction. And the thing that I learned, and if I could give this knowledge to people in a pill, I wish I could. They are the most prolific and skilled liars that you will ever meet in your life. These people will tell you to your face, looking you in your eye, that they haven't used for 6 months while they're completely twitching and their tongue is going and they're just gacked out of their minds. And they will sit there and tell you, I don't use drugs anymore. And you can tell they're actively high. People need to understand that these people are going to tell you what you need to hear to manipulate you. They're going to pull at whatever heartstring is dangling. They're going to see it. I mean, these people are like professionals at it. And so, like, yeah, when you talk to them, they seem so nice, right? They seem like they're people who are just down on their luck, right? They just need a hand up. They just need a little help. I cannot stress enough how skilled at manipulation criminals and drug addicts are. And you never know until you get their name and you go look up their criminal history, and then you'll be blown away by the stuff that some of these very nice people have actually done to other people.
It's, I don't know. I don't even, there's so much to talk about here, because it's all wrapped under this like umbrella of homelessness. And that's been my goal is to try and unwrap it, like let's figure out all the different aspects, because just because somebody's homeless doesn't mean they get a pass for committing crimes, or they get a pass for being a drug addict. And I know some of those things are interconnected, right? Like some people commit crimes because of their drug addiction, but that doesn't mean that everyone who's drug addicted commits crimes, and it doesn't mean that every criminal is only doing it because of their meth addiction. It's we got to unravel all this. And I met with those 3 people, and this is a small sample size, but none of those 3 people seemed like they were on drugs. And I have no idea. I didn't talk to them about drugs. Maybe that'll be my next video. I'll get into more about the drugs and ask them if it's fueling their habits or their situation. Maybe they would open up about that. Like you mentioned, they're liars. So, how do you get somebody to not lie about things like crime? You're committing these crimes. Is it because of your drugs? It's not like really a question I can
where
ask.
They feel like if they tell you the truth, it will benefit them.
Yeah. Here's a comment from Kaylee. They've burned so many bridges, and this is a choice. I mean, I believe that, but when I say things like that, people tell me that you're uneducated, or you don't
think
know.
About it, right?
Like I don't know these people's stories. Like I don't go into the woods here and talk to them about their stories and give them the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, they'll tell you they have no family. Like it's like, oh, don't you have a family member that you can go that can help you out? Oh, I don't have any family. Really, you have no cousins, no uncles and aunts, no grandparents, no parents, no brothers and sisters. There's literally no one.
And I've talked to that guy. I've talked to his mother and his sister, and they are willing to help him. They're there for him. They have helped him in the past. They would like to not see him living the life he's living. And I mean, I only talked to them for a short period of time, but they seemed like very normal, responsible people. So it's like, yeah, it's tough. Like you hear all these stories, and that's kind of the point of all of this that I've been doing and you've been doing. And this is why we would go into the woods here and talk to these people, is because I think we need to understand the issue fully before we go and start putting millions and millions of dollars into like homeless programs. Is that really the right approach? Do we even really know the problem? Like I sit in these once a month, these homeless advisory meetings, and they'll never show anything like this or talk to these people. I don't think most of them have ever even talked to a homeless person.
And how about talking to their families? Because their families will tell you the truth. These people are going to lie through their teeth. But people have to understand that to get to this position in life, you have to have hurt every person that's tried to help you. And I know this for a fact because I lived in New York City for 8 years, and I came pretty damn close to becoming homeless because I was a very poor college student, and New York is a very expensive place to live. And there was a point where I think I was about 26 or 27 years old, and I had to move from one borough to another. And I made a comment like, well, I could always live in my car. My friend looked at me and said, Brandy, you're never going to have to live in your car. If you really can't get an apartment, you can just crash in my basement until you get on your feet. And it was at that moment that I realized that if you are a good person, if you don't lie, cheat, or steal from people, people will help you. But the second you screw people over, you're kind of out on the street and they will stop helping you. So I ask this, how many people do you think that each of these bums has hurt to end up where they are? Because I'm guessing there are multiple victims. They've probably stolen. It's probably theft. They've probably had behavioral issues where they've maybe hurt someone or lashed out at people and family doesn't want them around. But there are reasons that people in these they don't have a friend and family support system helping them. There's a reason. So before we pump out compassion for people who are in a bad spot, please step back and consider why no one who would normally be associated with these people wants to help them. Just consider the compassion for the victims before you consider compassion for the people who seem like they're in a bad spot, because this is a hard lesson that I personally had to learn, and I really had to kind of like accept maybe my foot in my mouth, or however you want to put it. I had to kind of like challenge some of my like more liberal or leftist ideologies in this respect. I had to learn the hard way that people end up where they put themselves to a large degree. And the people who don't tend to make their way out of the system pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sick of not hearing the actual issue being talked about or addressed at any of our county or city functions.
Absolutely.
It's
roll the film.
Yeah, they wouldn't. I don't think they would allow. I'll ask, but I doubt it. And they don't like when I edit stuff. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna. I have an hour of footage. I'm not gonna play that. So,
right.
And a lot of the stuff we talk about is meaningless. But, yeah, I don't know. But the crime is one issue, and somebody just mentioned that affordable housing factors in, and it does. Like, so that's kind of where the conversation we started the show out about a construction tax. In my opinion, that makes this situation worse. Like, that's for me when I see the tax.
Affordable housing, though. So
no, but I see when you're to me, it's a stifling of our economy. You're taking tax dollars. Like, so a 2,000 square foot house, if someone was building in Bandon, that $3,000 tax, that's $3,000 that they maybe could have put into renovating like a loft in their garage to rent out, like an in-law suite or something. You know what I mean? Like, you're stifling, and that could have been rented to somebody that was lower income. It just, taking more and more money from people through taxes is what has got us into this mess, in my opinion. More taxes, more legislation. That's what's creating the affordable housing crisis. It's not even affordable housing. It's just housing.
I would really like to see all these people complaining about not making enough money in their crappy retail and food service jobs and like begging for tips because their employers won't pay them. Go build houses. My sister works in construction. She's literally, and she's a little bit like more muscly than I am, but like she's a regular female and she works with another female. And granted, they can't carry full sheets of plywood up ladders, but they work in construction. And so for these people who are like, I don't make good pay, fast food workers should be paid $20 an hour. How about if you want to make more money, go work in a trade, do plumbing, do electrical work, do, roofing, do carpentry, like literally build something where people can live so that it's like people are not understanding that it's a supply demand economy. This problem is also a manifestation of a labor imbalance. So there are multiple problems going on here.
Yeah, the thing that would be neat if people would work more in the trades. But like, I'll give a little story. I did handyman service for the past couple of years, and a lady in Bandon hires me, and she bought a like a shed, like a very large shed. And I guess she wanted, because she was going to use it for, building stuff. So she wanted electricity in there. And because it was on a cement slab, it turned into a whole like permitting process with electricity. And because it was permanent on a permanent foundation. So they have like the permit guy coming out and checking it. And she didn't like the look of the inside. So she wanted it. She put the electrical wire, and because the permit guy said that you're not allowed to have exposed wire, it has to be drywalled. So she had to pay me like a lot of money to drywall the whole thing, and she didn't need it. And then the other thing is outside the door, every exterior door has to have like a light, I guess, so you don't trip. It's like she didn't want that, but it was part of the permitting process. So she had to add on to pay me and an electrician and to pay for the material. And, it's like all these costs go up and up and up she didn't need any of that. She just wanted electricity. Like, she just wanted an outlet in there so she could plug in a power tool. And when you start adding it all up, it's thousands and thousands of dollars for unnecessary add-ons.
And it's prohibitive.
So to me, like, I look at that and I go, that's a big issue, because that lady could have invested that money into something else. Yeah, another business or another property. The lady's wealthy, but when you start, so a lot of people look at that, oh, we're just taking from the wealthy and it's not that big of a deal. Well, it is, because the wealthy are the people who are out there building and providing homes and jobs for people who need them. So it's a cycle.
You're right. I loathe permitting fees, and it's sounding more and more like those permitting fees that may have fit into something that would fall under that Supreme Court ruling. I have a feeling that a lot of this stuff is actually constitutional, and it's going to require lawsuits. Sue your counties, sue your states, sue your cities. Lawyers aren't cheap, but there are some of us have talked about actually pooling resources, because what a win for one of us is a win for all of us when it comes to this stuff. Permitting fees disgust me, and property taxes disgust me, because you look around and you just see dilapidated buildings all over Coos County. People don't make that much money here, and so if you tack on all of these permitting fees, all of these inspection fees, all of these property tax increases, it just de-incentivizes development, and it's not what we should be doing.
No, it's stifling. Our whole government system right now is stifling. And sorry, I was like reading a comment a little bit while you were talking. This one got me. Like, how many jobs are minimum wage in our community? A lot. And do those people have the opportunity to have a home that can be affordable on minimum wage? No, they can't. Like, no, somebody on part, no. even above minimum wage, you can't afford a home around here. Not a nice one. Like I think there's some homes probably for like 50 to 80,000 that are like in pretty bad shape somewhere, around here. Yeah, no, yeah, you're not gonna have cash for it, and it's pretty not up to code.
You need to have about, if you're minimum wage and you can't afford, you need like 30 grand in the bank to be able to buy a piece of property and then slowly build for yourself, because there's just nothing available here.
But that's if you're building a home at their standards, at these government high level standards. So like, I have this weird idea that like, you're talking about the people in trade. So like, take somebody in the trade. So some 22-year-old kid who just learned how to do carpentry and a little bit of electrical and some construction work. It's like, he should with the money that he has, be able to acquire a small piece of land or to build in a corner of his parents' property a nice little cabin, and use materials that are easily accessible. I mean, we have lots of forests around here. You could, borrow a sawmill, like do some work for somebody to allow them to use their sawmill or whatever, like trade some things, or you can buy one. Harbor Freight has sawmills for like a couple $1,000s. They're not that expensive, and chop that tree down, saw it up, make some lumber. like it is affordable when you take the
Without-
government out of it.
Without
It
having
is
to pay
affordable.
the government for the right to build a home for yourself to live in. Yes.
Exactly.
And it's,
But the moment
and
they
I
find
have-
out that you've built something there, they're going to come and tax
want
the
a piece
living
of it.
daylights out of you. And then
And
that's when it becomes unaffordable as well. So even if you make it to that point, once they find out about it, so like, sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, it was just, I do have some concerns with building and safety regulations. You don't want someone to build a shack and then they have a housewarming party and the shack collapses and kills 15 people. Like, that's the reason we have building codes. You know, somebody builds a deck off of their third story or their second story of their house and they have a house party and they have too many people on the deck because it wasn't built and it collapses and freaking kills 7 people. Like, that's what our building codes are intended to prevent. And there should be a way that we can educate people to build safely without making them pay the government exorbitant amounts of money. It's thousands of dollars for these permits, you know, and so it's prohibitively expensive almost. And then once you do fix up your property, if you do too much in too short of a period, you're looking at a tax increase. And when you file for a permit, FYI, that's what flags the assessors. That's what flags the tax assessment. So once you pull a permit, then they go through and they reassess your property value and you get hit with a greater tax bill. And for what? You're not making any more money. You're not costing the public any more money. But for some reason, the government thinks they're entitled to more profit off of your private property. It's gross. It's very, very nasty business. And I'm not an attorney, but I think it's unconstitutional. And I would love to dig deeper into it and really find out. It doesn't feel right at all.
It's not right. That's why it doesn't feel right. It's crazy, and I don't think people should put up with it. I'm not a lawyer, so the advice I'm about to give is not legal advice. I also, live an alternative lifestyle, and it comes with problems sometimes. But my solution to all this is stop paying those taxes. Don't pay the permit fees. Don't go, and if you're going to build something, don't get permits. It's crazy. Don't let them get involved. Don't let them take your money that you worked for. And, when people do this to your property, if you find somebody who's littering, if you find criminals living on your property, kick them the fuck out of there. And if you see it happening on your neighbor's property, help them, kick them the F out of there.
Help your neighbors.
Don't allow this. And do, if you see this, so like some of this is on school board property. If you see it, go to the school board meeting, go to the city council meeting, tell them about it. And they're not going to listen to you. Just know that going into it, they're not. And you're going to have to be persistent, but you can have some friends come with you, call me, I'll come. And we have to attack it that way. Run for public office so that there are people then eventually in public office that will listen to the citizens.
Definitely. Anybody that can get involved, join these boards. Run for any of these positions that are on the ballot, and if any of you need help doing that, reach out to one of us and we'll help coordinate to get your name on the ballot, because we do need people in these positions that can help bring in, a different way of thinking about how to do things.
Yep. And when people say to me like, oh, you tell people to not pay taxes or don't pay your property tax, blah, 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 and they'll come and take your home. It's like, okay. And I've seen it happen. I see it in the news, like old man, like some of these people, like they sit there and they end up going down, like they die. They like end up getting the police come to take their home and they end up like pulling a gun and getting shot. And it's like crazy. Like sometimes that does happen, but eventually it's going to have to come to like an inflection point. Is that a word? and it's going to have to end, because this can't go on like this forever. And so yeah, if you don't pay your taxes, they might come after you. I mean, it's likely that they'll come after you. If you don't pay your permit fees, they'll likely come and try and get them and put you through all sorts of legal processes. But if enough people do this, and enough people say enough is enough, we're not going to do this anymore because it's not right and it's not working for our society, it might just change. So, but you got to like do a lot of these things in parallel, and you can't be like I know people back in California who are like, I don't pay property taxes, but they're like also growing like massive amounts of marijuana on their property, and it's like no, you can't do like all the things at the same time, right? Like, but you got to be like kosher about everything. But yeah,
Right.
I really do wish in the future here we have more people in office at the city and county and maybe the state level where they're actually listening to people and they're actually concerned about the same things that we're concerned about, and not just like virtue signaling.
Right.
So yeah, I think we've exhausted that topic, have we?
Yeah. Shall we move on to our next topic?
I'm sick of looking at this video, and I don't know
Yeah.
how I do it, but I'm going to end up going and getting more. I'd like to do more interviews, like maybe do an interview from the opposite end, like go to like another town that I've heard like Florence, people say like they don't have this issue. So it'd be interesting to go to Florence and talk to some citizens there, try and find some homeless people there and ask them what it's like. Maybe come back here and ask people what it's like here and see like compare it, do a compare and contrast. So it's not just always all about Coos Bay.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I've wanted to get in contact with people over in Utah where my friends moved and have a conversation with some of their elected officials, people working their government, to look at what they have set up, how they're doing what they're doing, because their cost of living is so much lower than us, but their quality of life is so much higher. And so let's take a look at what they're doing and do apples to apples, and compare it to what we're doing and see what can be changed. There's so much room for improvement.
Well, like I've been following the Grants Pass story. Like that's the city who got everything up to the Supreme Court in terms of, because they were like kicking homeless people out of their city, essentially like a no tolerance policy. And then it got all the way up to the Supreme Court. It's like just even that in and of itself, taking a stand and saying,
yes,
we're not going to put up with this. And yes, it might cost us legally, but they ended up winning. And they're still fighting that fight. And it was just in the news today. I don't have the article in front of me, but we got to have some leaders. Right now, we don't have people leading. I mean, they're leading us, but they're leading us in the wrong direction. So we need a better captain for our ship.
They're not leading with the full picture. They're just leading towards an agenda. This would be a good time to roll the video if you want to do it.
All right. So yeah, Brandy recorded a video. She sent it to me, and it was kind of like one of those, like, what do you think things? And I was like, that's damn good. And we should play it instead of having you talk about it, because it's just better when you hear it, when it's like raw and it's just a brain dump.
And so I'll warn you, like, my hair is in a bun, I have makeup on, and I just finished work, and I'm like, I had started reading some stuff, and I just had this thought, and I set up my phone, and I just recorded myself, and then I tried to re-record it, and it just didn't have the genetic walk, you know what I mean? And so I told them just to play the video of me looking raggedy as hell, but like sounding
all right,
cohesive, I guess. So yeah,
it's 5 minutes, and then we'll discuss afterwards. But I appreciated it. So
I had this thought the other day about how much it must suck to dedicate your life to working in public service for decades. You put all this work in, you mentor, you work your way up, you earn your way into an elected position, you're a member of the community, you do everything you can to give back. And once you get into a position of power, people just do a lot of criticizing. Oh, this is wrong, and you're so frustrated because you've worked so hard to get where you are, and you've had to learn so much just to know what you know and just to implement what you do. And all these people say things that are like really ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about. They're criticizing you without having all the facts. And that must be so frustrating. I know, I've spent a lot of time in school. I've spent a lot of time in my profession, and it is frustrating when people want to do things like tell me, you know, social theory and psychology stuff, and you know, I kind of have to like bite my tongue and be like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. Especially when people argue with me over kind of social welfare stuff, because I have such an extensive background in sociology. And so I get it. I understand that it must really suck to have fools jump in and have opinions about your work when you've worked so hard to just do the best you can. I would ask that these people who are facing probably undue criticism, you know, like probably more than their fair share of criticism. These people work really, really hard. And all we do is say, oh, wasn't that stupid, you know? As much as I know that that is uncomfortable for people, really frustrating, annoying, you know, whatever you want to call it, I would ask that those people consider that those of us who have spent decades paying for our homes, building roots in a community where we have our whole family in a community, making our property nice, working really, really hard so that we have an opportunity to buy nice things. I would really ask those people who are being criticized and feel it's unfair, consider how unfair it feels to spend your entire life working and paying taxes just to have your property vandalized, to have people trespassing and stealing constantly, to have your home burglarized, have your car broken into, have your mail stolen, to be assaulted, accosted, carjacked. It's equally as frustrating, you know, because we've all worked really, really hard to get where we are and to have what we have. And so for those people who may feel a little bit like perturbed that they're being criticized so harshly, please understand that what you experience as far as criticism goes is nothing compared to the frustration that people are feeling getting robbed and attacked and having everything they've worked for their whole life just kind of destroyed. And then to have no one talk about it. No one in a position of power talk about how bad the crime actually is. When you've worked your whole life to provide for yourself, to have a good life, to have a nice home, to have a nice property, and to just have all of that destroyed by feral transients, most of them not even from Coos County, it's equally as frustrating. It's really, really frustrating. And I think the majority of the frustration comes from the fact that it's not being talked about. So if people are feeling unduly criticized, I would implore them to consider that criticism is maybe just a snowball, or like rolling downhill of the frustration that people have, the same feeling that people have who've worked so hard to have a nice life, to have security, to have safety, to have nice things, and to just have it trashed. It's equally as frustrating, and we've all put in equally as much to have good lives. And that's all I have to say about that. I just hope that the people who are being criticized now for their leadership direction understand that criticism is coming from a place of people who've also worked really, really hard to have a good life, and who are having their quality of life taken away from them, regardless of the taxes that they still continue to pay. That's all I got on that. Thanks, guys.
That's
I
all
thought it
got
was
on
well
that.
said. I thought that was well said. I mean, my main takeaway from that was how you said the main frustration is that this stuff is not being talked about. You know,
Yeah,
like if you
yeah.
if you don't attend, if you do attend one of these city or county meetings, or if you go on their websites and look at their press releases and stuff, like the stuff, the major pain points for the normal people in our community, it's not being addressed. None of it.
No.
They're not. They'll and even when they do address it, they tell you like they're fixing it, and then you know a year goes by, 5 years go by, 10 years go by, and not only does it not get fixed, but it actually gets worse. And I'll say when you first started talking, I was kind of like, where is she going with this? You know, like you're apologizing for all these people, you know, like they chose that job. They chose to put themselves in that position.
Did we
And
freeze? Am I still live?
No, I can
Freeze?
hear you.
Okay.
Froze
up, I think.
Oh, maybe I did. But yeah, it's like I was like, is she gonna be an apologist for elected leaders? You know, but I think you said it well, and I think you were speaking to them and trying to like reason with them and say like, hey, can you understand where we're coming from too? Because I do understand where you're coming from, but you know, I think I've given up on some of these leaders, that it's just not, if they don't get it now, I don't think they'll ever get it, and we need to replace them. But I can appreciate you that you're still hopeful that they'll maybe snap out of it. Like I know a lot of people like Jessica Engelke, North Bend mayor. A lot of people don't like her because of results or the lack of results, but a lot of people do like her. A lot of people I know like her, and I hope the best for her. I hope she can turn things around. But with like the Devereaux Center closing, that spillover from Coos Bay in terms of like the homeless population and the crime and stuff is really starting to affect North Bend. And I think she kind of got a pass recently because that stuff kind of got pushed to Coos Bay side. So now North Bend is getting hit with it. So
I really like Jessica as a person, and I do like her as a leader. I think she's an excellent leader, but she is at this point lacking teeth. I want to see her bite. I want to see her stand up and be a little bit more aggressive and assertive and like challenge the status quo that is responsible for the social problems that we're having. That's probably too much to ask, but
no, it's not. It shouldn't be. I mean, we want something
fine.
different. Everybody looks around and they're like, I mean, there's things that we want to keep the same. Like there's things that make this area so freaking awesome and great. And we want to keep those things, and we want to get rid of the things that aren't so great. You know, we want to improve our area. And there's no one out there who's really like tackling it with like enthusiasm, you know,
like there's nobody really like pushing the envelope on like, how do we solve these problems? How, like, they're very, very within the narrow, you know, status quo.
They're doing the same thing that everybody else does. They form an urban renewal agency, and they work with the Chamber of Commerce to like make it look like they're bringing development to this area, and they might do a big project here and there. Like, you know, I mean, hey, maybe they're going to get the port. Maybe they're going to get that port project and get a bunch of money and bring it in here. And it's just like, but we hear all this. You hear it all over the country, things like this, and it just doesn't get better.
It never manifests, because we need people who are more assertive. We need people who are disruptors. People who
and in the towns that I have seen things got better, because I traveled the whole country a couple years ago for about 2 years and visited different communities, and you see the ones that aren't great and you see the ones that are doing great. And in my opinion, the ones that are doing great, the leaders are very different. They're very different, and the people love them. They're engaged with the community. They're transparent. I mean, part of it is just in spirit. Like I don't want to get political, because I would also argue that a lot of these communities that are doing better are conservative, but that's
describe to me they're when I say how they're different, describe to me.
They're not phony. They're yeah, like they're not phony. They're authentic, and you can tell when you're talking with them that they actually care. Like I don't know I mean, you know, when you go and you
can
talk
tell
to
when someone's
somebody,
telling you the truth and whether when someone tells you things that might not paint them in the best light, or might be disruptive to their relationships to powerful people, or things that just might not be quite so advantageous. That's always what I look for, is like, is this person telling me the dirty truth that I know is the truth, or are they going to skirt around the truth to kind of like try to paint a prettier picture to make everything look a kind of way? And I think that gets at what you said about the victims of these crimes being mostly angry that no one is talking about it because we feel ignored, and there is so when we get into like people who've been victims of crimes, people who've been children who are victims of crimes, there's a huge difference in the outcome between a child who was victimized and received support, counseling, acknowledgement, the perpetrator was punished, versus a child whose family gaslit them into thinking it was their fault, or a child who it was ignored, it was swept under the rug, don't want the community to know that one of our members of the family got in trouble. And so they just kind of make the victim stay quiet. These two people have very different outcomes. And the biggest determiner is acknowledging that the victim is a victim. Like, that is so important. And
but authentically
just,
too, not just like saying that.
Of
Like,
course.
you have to mean it and know it and feel that person's pain.
Like, yes, acknowledge that these people don't deserve to have bad things happen to them just because some predator decided to prey on them. And I need to just like pause and give you, Sir Doug of the Basin, and Rob Taylor credit. The last podcast you guys did, or the live stream that you guys did, you guys talked about sexual assault, and you actually talked about the impact on victims. You know how many people won't talk about it? How many people skirt around the issue because it's icky, right? Like, nobody wants to talk about little kids getting diddled. It's freaking gross. So the fact that you guys would actually, 3 men on your own, talk about how horrible it is for victims to have to recover from this type of abuse, it is so validating, and it is so caring of the 3 of you to actually take the time, because you don't have to, you don't have to actually like take the time to think about how it is for a victim, but you guys did. And that's something that in my personal life, I have struggled to get people to actually like not try to change the subject really quickly. And you guys did something that I think makes so many people feel heard, and it's such a gift. And I just wanted to say thank you to all 3 of you for your candid and honest look at a victim side of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're referring to, so Friday I was on Rob Taylor Report. He has like a Friday night rant, and it was me, I guess, but he goes by the name of Doug Washington, BTR Doug Washington on Facebook. But anyways, we were talking about there's a sex offender working at the community college, and we were talking about his crimes and looking into it and stuff. And it's crazy. I don't know how to not feel the pain for people and to think of it through that lens. I don't understand. I think it's like people don't want the truth. They don't want that reality, because if they understood that these things happen often, more often than they should, then that would be scary, and they don't want that. So like they have a natural inclination to like not think about it. But I actually spoke at the community college board meeting on Monday about that. And it's crazy. I mean, I was just told essentially that, like they didn't want to talk about the crimes this man committed against his students. He was a teacher in Eugene in 2007, convicted of sexually abusing 2 of his students. And they didn't want to talk about that. All they wanted to talk about was how this was an opportunity, him working at the community college, to be rehabilitated and prove that he can be a valuable member of society and blah, 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 that, and essentially virtue signaling that they're doing a really good thing by allowing people to have second chances. They gave me a 2-page, official response from the college on the issue. Again, talking about how they're, they believe in second chances and giving this man a second chance. And it's like, where's the second chance for the 17-year-old girl who was sexually assaulted by this man? Obviously it's not going to, well, I shouldn't even say that. It might ruin people's lives, but you'd hope that she does. It does. You'd hope that I guess I'm trying to be optimistic that, she does have a second chance, but you can't undo what's been done, especially like a sexual assault by a teacher on a student. It's insane in the detail. So I actually read from his indictment at this meeting. I read counts, I believe 15 and 16 from his indictment that he was convicted of. And the chair smacked her gavel and was essentially going to kick me out of the room and did not allow me to continue reading because of the graphic nature of the crimes he committed. And
I don't want to hear it.
I
want to stop you, Chris. I cannot drive home the point more that as a person who has had this stuff happen to you, the fact that the adults who have hired this man to be around more minors don't even want to hear the story of what this victims went through.
It's
they
insane.
Have compassion for a predator. They have zero compassion for the every single person that wants to side with the predator and say, "Oh, he should have second chances." They should have to sit down in a room with the victim and hear every sick detail of what they did to them.
They should just that this person. So he got out. He was in jail until 2009, and he began working for the college the next year. He came from Eugene and then worked here at the college. The paper I have says he started in 2010. And
so he was on probation and he wasn't supposed to be around minors.
So yeah, the paperwork I have says he was on probation for 5 years after getting out of college, and it says that he's not supposed to be around minors, yet here he is working at a college. I mean, it's insane. There's so many other industries out there. We talked earlier about in the trades. He had his, I believe it was his stepfather wrote a letter to the judge for sentencing telling him that he's a great cabinet maker and he worked with him in his cabinet shop and he does a really good job. And it's like, why didn't he go make cabinets?
Exactly.
Why didn't he go do that or do literally anything else but work with children? Because he's convicted. He was found guilty of abusing them. And it's just absolutely insane. But yeah, the fact that the college would not let me read his crimes, that's disgusting. It's disgusting. And I mean,
they hire him, but they don't want to listen to what actually happened to the victim. That's disgusting.
I go,
they should all have to hear it.
I finished what she smacked her gavel and said, you know, we're done. We're not, you can't say that. And I went, is this, you know, I'm just asking a question. Is this inappropriate for a board meeting? And like the whole room, everyone went like this, like all the board members shook their head like, yes, this is too inappropriate. And I go, really? So if it's
a sex offender, but it's not appropriate to actually talk about what the sex offender did to a minor child.
Yep. If it's too inappropriate to hear his crimes, then it's too inappropriate to have him working at the college. And that's exactly what I said. And then she got up from the table and walked around and like kind of aggressively charged at me with the papers and said, you know, here's a statement from the college. You know, you're done. And I go, I'm not done. Like I have time here to talk and I'm going to say what I'm here to say. And she's like, well, you know, you have to get to your point. And then the timer went off and I'm like, and she's like, all right, well, you're done. And I'm like, you just talked for a whole minute over top of me and rudely interrupted me. And she's like, okay, we'll get to your point. And I just said, my point is that this process, there has been no process and it hasn't been handled. And you guys don't even want to hear about it. And it's disgusting. And anyways, it was, as I'm talking, the security guy is like walking up on me aggressively. And I asked him afterwards, I'm like, bro, why were you walking up to me while I was talking? And he's like, because because you were running out of time. And I go, I understand that, but like, what were you going to do? Were you going to arrest me? Were you going to like fight with me? Like, what were you going to do? And he's like, no. And I'm like, but like, why do you like, I'm talking about something that's important. I took the time out of my evening to come there and wait patiently. It was like an hour meeting. I waited till the very end. They make you wait till the end. And he's going to like bum rush me at the podium. It's crazy. But this happens everywhere. It doesn't even have to be about this topic.
Some of you, I don't think we should get into the freaking idiot that like attacked me this morning on Facebook, but like the post is on my Facebook page, and I have never talked about my experience with childhood abuse publicly until now. I decided to just tell everyone. I named the person that did it, and I described in detail what he did to me as a toddler. It's I carry those scars with me for my entire life. It fucked my life up. Excuse my language. It destroyed my childhood. I spent so many years dealing with guilt, shame, self-destructive behaviors because I thought I was trash. I thought I was tainted. I thought I was dirty. It destroyed parts of me that I'll never be who I would have been before that pervert touched me. I bear those scars. So for someone to say, well, they should get a second chance and put him right back in the environment where he abused someone is a slap in the face. He doesn't get a second chance at the same life because his victim doesn't get a second chance at her same life. It's disgusting. And I'm a little bit fluffed up because this stuff makes me, this type of injustice and this type of sidelining and marginalizing the victim absolutely sends me. This disgusts me. And so to think that these predators have some kind of right to just sweep it all under the rug and carry on with their lives while us victims bear the burden, bear the scars. And guess what? Whether or not they've been victimized too, the majority of us who are victimized never go on to hurt someone else like that. It's not an excuse. These people usually have a repeated pattern of behavior of being a predator in one way or another, and we see it over and over again. And so these people who can hire a predator and put a predator right back in the environment where he victimized someone, and then decide to refuse to hear the details of what he did. Every single one of those people is disgusting to me. I have no room for them.
You have every right to be mad. Like my blood was boiling on Monday night. I'm so mad. I'm calm right now. I'm like,
right?
This isn't the end for me for this issue.
Nope.
I'm going to keep digging and I'm going to keep fighting. It's like, I'm going to probably organize a group of people to go speak at these meetings. I mean, I put up on the screen, this is part of a news article from back in 2007 describing this person being convicted. So after this article here, and if you read at the bottom, what this person did, it's absolutely disgusting. He went to prison for about I believe a year and a half, and then came on down here to Coos County and got a job at our community college. And he is currently the director of pre-college education. He
and is in fact working with minor students.
And they
demographic that he abused.
Yep, it's insane. And they deny, people from the college have denied that he works with minors. And then I have people reaching out to me that confirm that he absolutely tutored them when they were in 9th and 10th grade. They tell me that his wife worked at Marshfield High School and was like the liaison for this program. And that's how he would get hooked up with tutoring these 9th and 10th graders. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. I look through some of these documents that I get, and the one describes how the victim describes how he would he was the theater teacher, and he would turn the lights off and play hide and go seek with the kids during class. And that's one of the times when he would sexually assault this girl. I'm trying to find, while we're talking, the the counts that I read aloud, they're absolutely disgusting. I mean, essentially, he performed oral sex on one of these students. And I mean, I'm speechless to like put myself in that shoes of that student experiencing that, you know. And I think people, like, in their mind, they have a people kind of they'll think, oh, it was probably consensual. She was probably some slutty student. And even if that's true, it's not okay. But I've done enough research on this that was not the case. I can tell you that was not the case. And it's just disgusting. You know, like, you should not be sending your daughters to school and have to worry about their teacher having his face in their crotch, licking their vagina. That's not a thing. And that's exactly what was alleged. And that's what he was convicted of. It's absolutely disgusting. And people, when they go to college to become a teacher, that should also not be on their mind, to be doing this to the students.
It's in the court documents that one of his victims missed school from being distraught over what had happened to her.
Right. It was not consensual. These were not consensual acts.
Inappropriate, unconsensual sexual contact like this scars people. It changes you forever, you know. And I cannot even describe, like, what is the opposite of compassion? Malice, it almost feels like, when people just kind of gloss over what you went through to provide, because we have to rehabilitate the predator. Or, you know, he needs a second chance, or, you know, they need a second chance. Females do it too, but it's outrageous how someone can be so cold and unsympathetic. And the other thing that is really, really, really frustrating here is, like, so what happened to me, I was a toddler when this stuff happened, and the man who did it, he was a meth addict. And so I have a very, very deeply ingrained problem with meth users. I'll just leave it at that. But, like, he was a meth addict and he beat my mother. I watched him hit my mom. And so I was terrified of this guy. I never said anything because I was scared. We had to actually, like, me and my mom were on the run for a period of time where we had to hide from this guy because he was actively stalking her. And so I was scared of him. And I wish people would understand that as a victim of sexual assault, that fear of predators never really goes away. You kind of live with this hypervigilance for the rest of your life. It follows you around. And all the therapy, like, nothing can shake it. And for people to be so unwilling to recognize the damage done to victims and the fear that we live with, to turn around and put that predator in a position of power over his exact demographic that he victimized, it's insane. I mean, it borders on a brutality toward victims. Like, knowing how many, and from the conversations I've had, it's about 75% of girls. I would say from all of the girls I've talked to growing up and all the women I've spoke to growing up, it's about 75% of us are victims of sexual abuse at some point in our childhood. And so you look at college filled with girls that about 75% of them, from what I can tell, girls who have admitted to me that, yes, this happened to me. No, I never pressed charges. No, the person never got in trouble. These are people going to school, and then they find out that the school has welcomed a convicted predator into where they have to go to get an education. It is so brutalizing. It is so inhumane to do to a victim. And these people, they think they're doing the right thing. That's what gets me. When they say the path to hell is paved with good intentions, boy, never has a more accurate phrase been spoken. These people think they're doing the right thing. They think they're being good people. They're not. It's awful.
We need more advocates for victims and less
Yes.
advocates for criminals and predators.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
We've got some people commenting here, kind of just reaction to the story. And the farther we dig into this story, the more disturbing it gets. I have had people reach out to me, I think you have as well, with stories of after he worked in Eugene and after he was convicted and came here and started working at the college. I had one person reach out to me and explain that I think they were sexually harassed by him, not assaulted, and they filed a report with the college. So I'm going to be following up on that. They allege that they filed a report and really nothing happened, which is incredibly unfortunate and even more enraging that things continued after his jail time. So, you know, their talk about him getting a second chance, it sounds like he's been given a third and fourth and fifth chance at this point. And I'll just put back up on the screen. This is what I was attempting to read at the meeting on Monday. These are counts 16 and 17 from his indictment. They are graphic and disgusting, but it is not, in my opinion, inappropriate for a board meeting when that person is being defended and employed by the school. And it's a taxing district. This is not just like some private college, by the way. This is a taxing district. Your property tax dollars, anybody in Coos County who pays property tax is paying for that school, is paying and funding this person's salary. And it's disgusting that he did this. I mean, I don't even want to read this out loud anymore. I've done it on other shows.
Without her consent.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely foul. It's completely disgusting and foul and unforgivable. And I'm sorry, you don't do this. You don't put this person in a position of power at a public school with public funds. There's so many things wrong with this. And it's so frustrating, but we have to be better than them and we have to be smarter than them. And we have to actually, make it work and find a way forward and be constructive about it. So I'm working on those things. The major thing I did was do a lot of investigation and get the documents to make sure we knew what we were talking about. And it wasn't just hearsay, you know, because people reached out and said a lot of things and I was shocked by them. And, you know, you don't always want to just like present shocking things just because they're shocking. You need to make sure that they're factual.
Right.
And thus far, everything I have uncovered confirms everything that I was told. I mean, here's like a text. This person said, I hope more people put pressure on the community college to fire Curtis. I made Kyle Croy aware of the sexual harassment Curtis did to me, and he brought it to the higher ups, but they didn't seem to care. All I got was a fake apology and continued harassment, you know, and like I read through, so the Eugene Police Department, I got the original police reports. These are hundreds of pages of documents from the Eugene Police Department who did a thorough investigation into, so there were two victims that went to trial, like, and I don't know how much people know about the court system. Just because two victims is what he was convicted of, assaulting does not mean that there were only two victims. It doesn't mean that there were more, but in my experience with cases like this, you know, sometimes things aren't always provable, even though, you know, they happen, or they're not, you know, as sure of a way to get a conviction, you know. So the DA says, look, we've got enough with these two charges, these two victims, so we're not going to pursue it on this third one. You know, like all sorts of things happen. But anyway, so reading these documents from the Eugene Police Department, there were, it seemed like more than 10 people who had made allegations, and they had looked into numerous of these numerous allegations and were uncovering facts. That's all I'll say. I'm being like very legalistic about how I say this, because I would imagine somebody put in the comments, he must have money. I mean, probably seems like a really good lawyer. Probably. Yeah. seems like it might be a case. So, not that I want to get sued, but bring it on, fucker. Like, I would love to have some court
You
time
know,
to be
if
able
it happens,
to
though,
put
it's,
this out there.
yeah, it's just going to blow it up worse. I mean, it's just for him. Like, it's just going to make it worse. I can't wrap my head around, you take a convicted sexual predator and you put him in a freaking school. Why? What? And how often is this happening? Like, because we're finding out that there's a lot of sex offenders in schools, and as it turns out, when you flash the green light for people to talk to kids about sexuality, it attracts weirdos, if you could imagine that. And so we have all of these schools that are like, hey, yeah, talk to kids about who they like to have sex with. That's fine. And then they find out, oh God, we've got a bunch of pedos like having inappropriate contact with children. Yeah, you think? We've all been trying to say that this was going to happen, and then we were all called bigots and whatnot, phobes of one kind or another. And then it turns out that it's rampant. It's a rampant problem. And the number of people who are getting convicted of these crimes who have had prior complaints against them, or even prior convictions, or have been investigated, and then they find out that they continue to do it. Like, why are we not protecting the innocent? And that's not a rhetorical question. Like, I would ask anyone in a position of power who has put a predator in another position of power, why are you not protecting the victims? And I want the answer. I really actually want people to contact me and, like, please explain it to me like I have an IQ of 75.
Well, I think
I don't get it.
The next board meeting, you can go and ask them for an answer. I doubt they'll give it to you, but it would be cool to have some people there asking, demanding answers.
I have to finish my coaching certificates before I go ham on some mofos. I got to get my stuff, squared away, get my certificates done, and get my coaching stuff squared away.
Their response to me, or lack of response, the fact that they didn't let me read his indictment at the meeting, pretty much just like bought my ticket to attend every single board meeting, probably for the rest of the year, which is probably nuts. But you know what? I think it's worth it. I can't believe that these people, like, what do they think they think they're teaching a lesson where you can give people second chances. And it's like, well, if there's predators out there, aren't they just learning that, like, you're all really soft?
Get away with it.
Yeah, you can, and this is just the guy that got caught. Maybe you won't even get caught, but if you do get caught, you'll just get like a year and a half in jail, and you'll have those memories for a lifetime. Isn't that awesome? And then you'll get to teach and be around these kids some more. And as you get older and older, that sucks, but guess what? They'll stay nice and young. And it's like, that's disgusting. Like, these predators are living in a paradise here in Oregon. They're living in an absolute paradise where they get to keep on keeping on doing what they do and being around young kids and being in positions of authority. Here's a text we got, because the school says he's not around minors. And it's like, that's not the facts we have. That's not what we're hearing. It's absolutely nuts. I don't know. We keep talking about this, and I hope people aren't bored about it, because it's a huge issue, and it's like,
well,
it goes deep.
It speaks to a larger cultural issue of permissiveness. We gotta stop. Treat predators like predators. The second chance doesn't have to mean that we put the person right back in the circumstances. Exactly. I love you, Kaylee. She's so smart. Exactly. And it's like, us victims don't get a second chance to have our old life back that we would have had before what happened to us. We're forever going to carry that. And I was just looking up statute of limitations because, I talk about this stuff. I have thought about, so I did email the DOJ. It was years ago. There were some problems with the property where the person who sexually abused me was living. He inherited the property and it turned into a garbage dump, like worse than what you guys are actually seeing over in Coos Bay, North Bend. It was really, really bad. It's at the 12-mile marker out Fairview if you drive toward Liver Park. You'll look to the left, or excuse me, to the right. You look to the right if you're on your way to Laverne, right. And so there was some complaints, some code violation complaints, and I wrote an email to his sister who owned the property, and I copied the DOJ, I copied the state police, I copied all of the local law enforcement, I copied senators, I copied Congress people, I copied the governor's email, I think. Any email I could get, I put on this email, and I described what this dude did to me because she didn't want to kick him off the property because, well, he might become homeless. And I said, don't feel bad for him. This is the kind of person he is. No one contacted me about it. Now, I think the statute of limitations for a criminal conviction, and you have to remember, like, I was terrified of this man. Like, my mother pulled a gun on him and almost had to kill him. He beat her repeatedly. And so as a young adult and stuff, I moved away. I lived in New York, so I got away. I physically removed myself and got away. But then moving back, it was like, God, I'm scared to speak out. I'm scared. And so if they can make the statute of limitations on these sex crimes, if they can keep their victim quiet for long enough, and of course it's intimidation, like they're, then you can't press criminal charges. So even though this guy freaking molested a toddler with his bare hands, he can't be prosecuted because too much time has gone by. Now, I think if I wanted to, I might be able to sue him in civil court. Not that he, I don't think he has anything, though. Like, he's a meth head. But it's just the fact that, like, our society is set up that if these sexual predators get away with it long enough, they can't be charged. Why?
Yeah. Even when they are charged, they're not getting the time they deserve. I mean, we don't really have a functioning criminal justice system here in Oregon. I mean, it's a problem probably across the country, but it's really bad here in Oregon. In general for all crime, but then when you talk about like sex offenders, I mean, like, look at this. I think we throw this graphic up every single show because Oregon's not doing good.
And the
I mean,
question
this is
why?
bad.
Like, you've got to ask why. Is it that more crimes are getting reported in Oregon and more people are actually getting prosecuted, or is it that we have a culture of permissiveness that is encouraging people to go ahead and, like, it's not preventing people from committing these crimes,
All of the above and probably some more. Yeah.
It's probably a combination of a lot of factors, and like you said, no one talks about it, and because no one's talking about it, all of the victims just kind of feel ignored, and it's a sucky situation.
But here's my solution. It's not going to solve everything, but it's what I'm, you got to run for public office. There are 4 seats on this college board that will be available in May. I'm seriously considering running for one of them. People take those seats away from them if they're not doing the right job. If they're allowing sex offenders to work at the college and interact with minors, that's a definitely get out of here for me. And I know that's not easy. I know not everybody can run for a college board seat, but support people who are, and get out there. People can attend the meetings. You can look these people up online. You can email them, call the board chair, call the college president, talk to them about this, post stuff about this on social media so that people are more aware of it. And if you're really excited about it, and pissed off about it, like I am, maybe take it a step further and go and, meet with these people in person. And, I don't know how much I can encourage other people to do certain things, but we got to get creative. We've got to undo this problem.
Yes.
And doing the same thing we've all been doing for the past 20, 30 years is not going to change anything. So we've got to start thinking outside the box.
Yes. Part of it too is going to be culture change. And we all change culture through our words and actions. And so what each of you can do when you're having these conversations, be the person that's willing to stand up at the barbecue and say, actually, victims deserve more of a chance to have a healthy, happy life than predators do to have power and influence over more potential victims. Be the person who's willing to challenge the enablers. Be the person that's willing to like stand up and say, this isn't right, because that does change culture. And when you call people out on their nonsensical beliefs, when they have to acknowledge that they're contributing to the problem, it seems like a lot of like just disagreement over nothing, but it really does. These conversations will change people's minds little by little. What if we got a group of women that are 80 years old?
Yeah, no, but challenge. We got to challenge these people. So this is the college board this is the website for the college. And yeah, if you the chair, this was the lady that slammed her gavel and kept interrupting me and didn't want me to read the indictment. So this is Marcia Jensen. Her term expires this summer, so she's up for election.
I just want to say, Chris, that's not a very diverse panel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see color and gender, so that sort of stuff doesn't matter that much to me. But yeah, these people, I'm sure they're of the liberal variety, and they virtue signal like crazy about diversity and things like that that apparently matter to them. But that's always been the problem with all this DEI shit and this diversity stuff.
It looks like there's one guy under 60.
Well, yeah, when does it end? You know, if maybe 30 years ago, this whole board was, well, this district in college probably didn't exist back then, but say 30 years ago, this would have been all men, and they start diversifying it by adding women. At what point do you stop? Do you stop when you get to 50% women? I mean, it's crazy.
We should be way more concerned with diversity of perspective and diversity of opinion and diversity of thought. And I can guarantee you that the thought among these people is homogenous.
It seemed that way on Monday. I mean, they all nodded their heads that it was disgusting that I was reading this indictment. The convictions of someone who works at the college, who has worked there it's the year 2025. So if he was hired in 2010, that's almost 15 years. That's insane. That he's been able to work there. And that's why also they're mad. You know, it's been 15 years. You know, they're sick of hearing this issue. And it's like, well, we're sick of having sex offenders in positions of power and authority in our community. And, you know, it's never going to get old. And if you want to get credit for what an amazing job you're doing for giving this man a second chance, if you want to get credit for that, for having the courage to give this man the second chance, then you've got to put up with my bullshit at a meeting talking about the crimes that he committed. That's just par for the course. That's what you've got to put up with, because you're such a good moral person for giving this criminal sex offender a second chance. That's just what you got to put up with.
But
so
they're going to have to be put up with being looked at like an absolute scumbag for putting a convicted sex offender back in school.
Yep.
I'm sure all of these people on this board think that they're very good people. I'm going to tell you right now, good people don't throw wolves in with the sheep. Good people don't throw foxes into the hen house. Good people don't put sex offenders in positions of power at college campuses.
And I told them I'm going to stay after the meeting. If anybody wants to talk, if you have questions for me, if you want to explain this to me, anything, you know, no one took me up on that. I stayed after the meeting for like 30 minutes. No one came anywhere near me. And how hard would it have been? You know, how hard would it have been for one of them to just walk up and go, look, Chris, you know, you read the really inappropriate stuff at the meeting and we didn't appreciate that, but you know, you're right. It's disgusting what he did. It's absolutely disgusting what he did. But if you have time on Friday, I can talk about it with you and we can maybe find some common ground or at least come to a better understanding. Something like, how fucking hard is that? And not one of them wanted to do it because they don't
think they owe that
care.
to you.
They don't care.
And
They don't care. They are kings and queens.
Anyone who wants to reach out to me, I'm easy to get a hold of. I use my name, my real name online. I'm easy to find. I would be willing to have a conversation and hear out any one of these people. Now, they're going to have to listen to my criticisms, but I will be polite. I will hear them out. I'll be cordial, but I am going to say what I really think. I can guarantee you none of these people are going to reach out to either of us. Well, for one, they're probably not going to watch this video, and that's fair enough. But
no, but I've tagged them on social media. I've tagged almost all of them and the college president and her secretary on posts, and no response. Like, they're aware. They're very aware. I even asked them before the meeting. I emailed because I didn't know where it was. I emailed the college president's secretary, whatever she is, assistant, before the meeting and said, where's this meeting? I didn't get a response, but magically when I showed up, they were kind of prepared for me. They had a press release. You could tell that they knew that I was coming, and I didn't tell anybody except I sent that email. I didn't even tell you that I was going to this meeting. I told no one because I knew they wouldn't get back to me, and I knew they would be shady about it. And they fell for it. And they think they're so freaking smart, but they're not. But until we replace them, guess what? They are our kings and queens. That's just a fact. It's the reality. And it sucks. It's a shitty reality. But until we step up and take that throne from them and give it to somebody who's more deserving of it because they actually care about this community and they're willing to hear about issues like this that are concerning and deal with them appropriately, not defending a sex offender and giving him a second and third and fourth chance. That's not what this community wants. If they truly went around and asked everyone in this community and took a poll, is that something that you want? You pay this on your property tax bill, that little line item that says Southwestern Oregon Community College tax. Is that how you want your tax dollars being spent? The answer would be categorically no. That's not what we want as a community. Because I've done that. I've asked.
People who have been convicted of person-on-person crimes like this should not be eligible for any kind of tax money. Like, if you commit a person-on-person crime, you should not be able to get tax money from the people that you literally violated. Like,
could you imagine if he did this today at the college? Like, if it broke the news today that he was performing oral sex on a minor at the college, some janitor walked by the office and he saw it. I mean, he'd be arrested.
Who would pay the bill? Me and you.
Yep. But he wouldn't work at this college. They wouldn't allow him to ever work at the college again. So it's crazy.
And if it does happen again, me and you will all of us taxpayers will pay the bill because the school will get sued. Of course, these people, I don't think they can get individually sued, even though I do believe that that should be an option. People should be held accountable for the decisions they make when they're in positions of power. But if the school got sued, we're the ones who would pay that.
It's crazy. You triggered something in my head that in this statement they gave, he even says he became the classified union president in 2018. I think that means he was like the employee union president.
So with power over vulnerable people. Cool.
Power over a lot of things. I mean, it's nuts. I'm so mad about it, and I'm really disappointed. Like, honestly, I don't know these individuals. I don't. I've only met them briefly and researched them a little bit, but they're I'm very, very, very disappointed in these people and them allowing this to continue for 15 years. I don't know if all of them have been there that whole time, but it's disgusting to me. It's so wrong. And I'm going to keep telling them that. I'm going to keep going to these meetings and telling them that, and it probably won't do anything, but they need to hear it. And I'm going to keep looking into this guy.
Talk Talk to your friends about this stuff. Talk to your friends about how wrong it is to put predators in positions of power. And it's not just about like, oh, he shouldn't be around kids. He shouldn't have power over any vulnerable populations. He shouldn't have power, period. We should not be giving predators power, period. Not giving them access to victims. This is a really basic concept. Like, and when you start doing like intellectual gymnastics to try to rationalize it, that's where you end up deviating from an ethical, from a more, your moral compass goes wonky. You shouldn't have to jump through all these hoops to justify something. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. And like, dude, just giving predators power is wrong.
Well, and that was one of in the Eugene Police Department investigation, they talked with this one girl who went to the same college as him. And so when you're in college, if you're an upperclassman, you can become what's called a resident assistant, and you live in the dorms with the lower classmen, like freshmen, sophomores. So if you're a junior or senior, you live in the dorms with the freshman and sophomore, and you're kind of their like big brother or big sister. Like at my college, the boys' side had an upperclassman boy that was like our big brother. But anyway, so he was a resident assistant, and so this wasn't something that went to trial because it wasn't a crime, but it spoke to what kind of a predator he is. And this person alleged that he formed an inappropriate relationship with her through manipulation and using his position to abuse her. And it's not against the law for someone who's like 20 or 21 to have sexual relations with someone who's 18 or 19. It's not against the law, but it speaks to his character. And this person like went through great lengths to convey this story. They didn't have to. They were in the military at the time, and they were overseas, and they only had access to a computer once a month to be able to send a brief email. So this investigation occurred over months and months because the cops would receive, a little tiny email and then have to like respond and ask some more questions and so the story was told over the course of months through little emails. And I've read through hundreds of pages of documents, and I've really come to know what kind of a person this predator is. And it's absolutely foul and disgusting that people would allow him to be in a position of power over anyone, but specifically minors, ever again. And
it's fully unacceptable. And the more people come to realize like, hey, this is wrong. Like, second chances don't mean you put the fox in the hen house. Second chances can look very different than, the person doesn't get a second chance to live the exact same life that they were living when they committed a person-on-person crime. Just getting that conversation going and getting people out in the community talking about this stuff and recognizing that, our school board are the people who couldn't even stomach hearing what their employee did to a student. That's the culture change that we need in this county, is for people to start having these conversations, join the boards, run for elected positions. There is a lot we can do.
It's like, I always try and do like, it's like this in my head, and I'm like, do you remember that guy, Bernie Madoff? I think he was like the Ponzi scheme guy, and he got arrested for all these financial crimes, these like massive multi-million-dollar fraud financial crimes. And I'm like, it's kind of like if we hired Bernie Madoff as our county treasurer because he's so damn good with money. But then I go, no, it's kind of like allowing a sex offender from Eugene teach at our community college. It's like, this guy is the worst. It is the worst. There's nothing like it. It's insane. And I don't know why I'm laughing. I think it's just because it's like, I don't know what other, it is. It's absurd.
The juxtaposition between like rational and irrational is so stark that it does kind of elicit laughter because it's laughable. It's so ridiculous.
and then beyond that, you alluded to it earlier, but yeah, we've got this other sex offender. I believe he has a warrant out of Nevada or something. This guy named Sal, and he's a
No,
big
should we
fan of
even
our
talk
show
about
now.
he's like a nobody. I don't even know. Like, he's just a freaking predator who has a whole bunch of convictions for a whole bunch of different stuff. He's like mad that people are pointing out that this guy wants to have power and influence in our community, and anyone who tells people, hey, this is what this guy has done, he gets mad and attacks them. He's he's not even really worth our time, honestly. Like,
he's really annoying. He has this like Facebook group or this page that has like a decent following if you look at like how many followers it has, but then you look at like the posts and it's like our little group here has like 300 followers. It's not a lot, but we have engaging content, I believe, and I think we are authentic in our in the things we talk about and the things that we do in our daily life. So I think that's why we have like pretty decent engagement with our posts. This guy has like 10,000 followers on his Facebook page, and he has less engagement with his posts than we do. And it's like, dude, like, I don't even know how to like tell you, but I think that you're kind of fake and no one really, anyways, the point is but he's out there putting himself out there as like a community page. Like, I think it's called like Coos Bay something. And it makes it seem like it's like endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce and it's like a touristy page. And then he'll throw out these like weird things. Like he posted a photo of you, but he did that too. But even like he posted a photo of you in like a jail cell, like with bars. Like I saw that this morning and I didn't even understand it.
Like, he literally committed defamation. And if that ends up,
it's so bizarre.
A comment I made and he quoted it, but he changed the wording to make it sound like I'm into porn and that I'm okay with meth use. That's defamation, bro. And if I end up suffering any kind of like backlash for that, if I don't get a client or if that gets brought up in a professional setting that makes me look bad, I do have an attorney on retainer and I will sue because I do know the definition of defamation. It's, so FAFO, I guess. I really don't want to deal with such an absolute nobody, but like,
it's kind of weird coming from anybody, but then like you start researching the guy and apparently he's a sex offender and he's committed theft in our community and he has warrants from an outside agency, allegedly. Apparently this is the information people have given me. They give me, like, you posted court documents, so it has to be true. But yeah, and then he's like, and a couple of weeks ago he posted a photo of me and called me racist. He had it like printed on my forehead, and it's like very bizarre stuff. Honestly, like, I'm like, it's kind of sad and pathetic and concerning that like not only do we have a predator in our community, but he's kind of like lost his mind and is doing like really weird stuff to try and defame and hurt people in our community that are like, I mean, what's so bad about us? Like, damn it, we've been on this show for 2 hours and we're so bad. We've been such bad people, like what is wrong with having this show and talking about issues that affect us and other people? You don't have to agree with everything we say, but we're not doing anything wrong. As far as I know, neither of us are sex offenders. I don't have any convictions. I was arrested once in my life. I was put in handcuffs once in my life, and it was in California during in 2020 because I was shopping at a grocery store without a mask on, and they arrested me. Yep, arrested me because I wouldn't leave my cart and exit the store. In Oregon, that would have been a crime because that's technically trespassing if they ask you to leave and you don't. In California, as long as you are at that business utilizing its services for what they are supposed to be used for, and it's open to the public, it's not a crime. So I was simply shopping and I wasn't in there like handing out Jesus pamphlets. Anyways, this is a tangent. The case was thrown out because it was illegal to have even arrested me in the first place. But
wild.
Anyways, where was I going with all that? We're not bad people. And then you've got this guy on Facebook trying to like paint us as evil people.
No, I mean, he straight up like misquoted me. And the thing that when I saw the post, it was brought to my attention via Messenger this morning, and I looked at it and I'm like, this is really stupid. But the one thing that did upset me was where he changed my post, my actual comment on a totally different post. He changed my comment where I was talking about Rob Taylor's drug charge, and I said, I heard the drug charge. It was marijuana and meth charge. I can't get mad about that. I didn't say that. I didn't write that. And I will have you know, I would always be upset about a meth charge. And as far as I'm concerned, meth users are lowlifes. The person who sexually assaulted me as a toddler was a meth addict. So him saying that is disgusting and foul on a level that I don't think I can communicate without getting our post taken down for video. It's disgusting. And I do post in that repost, I posted a screenshot of the actual comment I made so that you can see where I wrote, I'm, as far as the porn thing, I'm not into it. Which, I mean, who cares? Like,
well, you care because
no.
you care about the words that come out of your mouth. You and I both do.
Right,
we care about the
right.
things we say, and when someone takes
Right.
them and takes the inverse of it, like you said, I am not into porn, and he inverted it to say that you are. I mean, they're vastly different meanings, and it's very. And look how like we're talking about it on the show. You had to put a post out this morning. Like we're putting time and energy into this. And like it's so stupid, and where does it go? So this is a sick, weird individual.
Bad. Like all it's doing is making the community more aware of like what an unhinged predator this guy is. Like
hopefully it's backfiring.
History of violating boundaries, and this at its core is a boundary violation. You don't.
But you and I know he's a narcissist, so he's sitting there. I mean, he watches every one of our shows, and he's sitting who knows where, and he's watching this, and he's loving it. He's loving that we're talking about it because he's so amazing.
Yeah, any press is good press. So you're right. I just don't like.
He posted this morning a like street. He's mad at this guy on Facebook, so he posts a street view outside his home, and it just so happened that the Google Street View car had gone by while like one of his kids was out doing something in the garage, and he's like, he called her like an elephant or something. I think he like was talking about like how disgustingly obese she was, derogatory. And it was, and he knew it was his kid because he even said that your kid is. I don't know what the post was, but he took it down.
This guy has no moral compass. Like this guy
super weird.
Preach all of the woke, inclusive, no bullying. He'll say all the right things, but when you look at his behavioral track record, it is nothing but boundary violations. The dude is a predator. He's lied to police. He has tried to defame people. He's made up allegations against Rob Taylor. I mean, straight up, you can.
He went to the police station this morning to file a report against this guy named Rob, against this guy for apparently doxing him, like posting his location, his address online, which he did not do.
He didn't.
But he goes and he thinks it happened, and he goes to the police and makes a report, and then literally goes online afterwards and posts where this guy lives, a street view of his house.
See,
and then it talks about his children and posts his children on his website. I mean, the guy's lost his mind. He probably lost his mind a long time ago. He probably never had a mind. He's a weird freak of an individual.
So I'll tell you, Chris, I've known someone who was a convicted sex offender. I've known someone who has written false prescriptions. I've known someone who's shoplifted. I've known someone who's lied to police. I was a bartender for 7 years, so I met some pretty like colorful people. But I have never met someone who one person checked all those boxes. I've met people who have done all those things. but never one person that's done all those things. And so it's like one thing, okay, yeah, maybe the person got their life together and they go live a good life and go do you. But when someone has a patterned behavior of violating boundaries, of being deceptive, there's this great quote about describing evil as deceit. And I thought that was really clever. I won't get too much into it. But this person has a pattern of these behaviors. And then you look at like, oh, anti-bullying, oh, anti-doxing. Turns around and doxes a child. That's a child. Like on a community, it was like the Coos Bay area foundation page or whatever it is. It's promoted like as a community page, and this dude straight up doxed a child on it. That's not in line with the whole like anti-bullying, inclusivity, like treat everyone with kindness and respect. So everything he does belies the message that he's trying to send. And so that this guy is just a manipulator. He's just saying what he thinks people want to hear so that he can like manipulate them. And that's kind of the story with all predators.
Yeah. He's pathetic, sad, weird. Sal, if you're watching, please stop being such a fucking freak and leave people alone. It'll be a lot better for you.
Life. Like, go do you, live a quiet life. Stop trying to get everybody's attention. Stop trying to be a spokesman for our community. Stop trying to push social agenda crap on our community.
But he could even do that. I mean, if he ran his page like if he does good stuff with like graphics, he's like talented at growing a following and centered around liberal stuff. So it's like, if he wants to do that, stick to it. Like grow a community page for liberal leftist agenda crap, and you'll have a great following, especially here in Oregon. And you can be king. You could be king of the liberals, but instead you try and attack innocent people like you and I.
People found out that he was pushing the sexuality crap and the LGBT. Listen, people know they're gay. They don't need to you don't need to have your whole personality be who you have sex with, right? Okay, so he was trying really hard to push the stuff in our community, and people kind of were getting like weirded out by him. And then they looked into him, and then they were like, oh, weird, a sex offender that wants to like get really into like the woke sexuality stuff. But about him running the page and doing good graphics, he did rip off some photos taken by a local photographer, allegedly. This is what I heard through the grapevine, and was given, I believe, like a cease and desist situation. He
uses AI for his photos and for his text and stuff. I was just trying to give him like some sort of a way out of all this, like come on, man, just run the page like the way it could be run. I don't agree with probably anything that would be on that page if it's politically left. But
I'm sorry, I don't believe
there are people out there. I don't either, but I just he's going down a road that only leads to one place.
Yeah,
and it's
it's
bizarre
not
why he would want
it's not
to.
good for anyone else.
No, it's a waste of time. I hate talking about it.
It is.
But yeah, people need to. So his name is Sal Carruthers. People can look him up, and he's got a page called he used to have Oregon's Bay Area. It's a Facebook page, and then he sold it to Mary Gedry, who moved here from California. She wanted to be a liberal activist and create a radio station and all this stuff. Anyway, so she runs that page now.
And brought their brilliant politics with them. I love that.
Yeah. And then he started a new page called Coos Bay Area, and that's on Facebook as well. This is why social media is retarded. Am I allowed to say retarded on social media?
So yeah,
but
now you can. So here's the thing.
It's crazy. Like people have too much influence.
Registered sex offenders are not allowed to use Facebook.
Yeah. Well, rules are meant to be broken, apparently. I mean, it's probably like a level 3 sex offender is not allowed to be on Facebook or something like that. I don't know, but Facebook obviously operates under their own set of rules. I just really wish people would,
Facebook does not
not
allow
engage with him.
convicted sex offenders to use their platform. Full stop.
Well, he must have somebody on the inside then, because from what I know, he is a convicted sex offender. He was, I'm working on getting those records. Sal, yes, I did public records request with Oregon and Las Vegas and Nevada and some other municipalities, because I'm just trying to learn about your life story, bro, and figure out, what you might have done in your life that got you into the situation that you're in. And the more information I have, I can get you out of it. Yeah.
This says the U.S. Supreme Court, this was February 21st of 2024, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a law in North Carolina that banned convicted sex offenders from Facebook and other social media websites. According to the court's opinion, registered sex offenders have First Amendment rights that protect free speech to use social media. So the report form is still up on Facebook, though.
Yeah. Well, I would encourage anybody who's watching. My little ticker here says there's 12 people watching, which is not a lot, but it is what it is. And, if all 12 of us worked on even just one of these issues we've talked about tonight, I think we'd be in a better place tomorrow. If we all keep working in our own little arena and do the best we can. So whether it's Sal, a weird sex offender running a local social media page, or a hardcore predator working at our community college, or a school board who imposes a tax without talking to their constituents, or a woods, an old nature trail filled with bum camps. Like, we got to figure this stuff out. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I kind of wonder, because he keeps making these fake profiles to attack people. I wonder if there's some kind of, if he's abusing the platform in that way, and that could get him kicked off.
Oh, sure.
Like, you can't just continually harass people without consequences. Like, people are allowed to tell the world what you did. So, like, if it's a fact, too bad. But that, like, the fact that people are telling the truth about the things that a person has done does not give that person a right to, like, harass and defame them. So I don't know. I have a
Well, I mean, you'd think Mr. Zuckerberg, like, is this why Mr. Zuckerberg created Facebook? So weirdo enraged sex offenders can, like, harass people online. Is that what Mr. Zuckerberg, why he created Facebook? Right. I'll give him a call tomorrow. It's past his bedtime, but I'll give him a call tomorrow and get to the bottom of this. Actually, I ran into Mark Zuckerberg once in California. I was running on a mountain near Palo Alto, and him and his wife were just out in the woods hiking. It was pretty weird.
That's cool. I do it.
But he's a tall guy. Anyways.
I think that's all we got.
We said we were going to only have an hour-long show.
I know. We gotta tighten it up, Chris.
Yeah, you wouldn't offend us, people, if you dropped off after an hour. It might actually encourage us to shut the hell up or get with it. But there's stuff to talk about, and it's we shouldn't be brief on some of these things. It's like, I think we want to we want to be brief enough that people can, like, not feel like their time is being wasted, but some of these issues, need to be all talked through and addressed. So I do kind of feel that as well. So we'll get into a rhythm. And I think earlier some people were confused as to, like, what the show was when we started. So maybe I'll work on getting some stuff out that kind of explains what our topics are for the night, and maybe, like, when we're going to talk about them. But yeah, appreciate everybody who's watching. Appreciate everybody who's been supporting us. And this is a pretty cool thing that we're able to do. And if anybody ever wants to be on the show, shoot me a message and I'll make it happen. That includes you, Sal. I'll be fair to you, you know, as long as you're fair to us.
I'm just gonna say, I don't contact me, Sal. Don't contact me. I'm a victim of sexual abuse and I do not want to be contacted by a sex offender. I will not take it well. Leave me alone. I can't be any more clear about that. I'm allowed to tell the world any fact. You are not allowed to harass me. Leave me alone.
Well, and I'll double down on that, Sal. If you're watching, I'm going to give you a very crystal clear warning. Leave Brandy the fuck alone. And I mean that with every drop of blood in my body. So that's a straight up warning. And, you know, I'll leave it with that. Everybody have a good night. It's been a good show. I appreciate everybody. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.